You are tuning in to the Human Side of Engineering and Product Development podcast, brought to you by Saratech, where we bring you industry leaders and some of the brightest minds in engineering solutions and product development. I'm Andy Dio, your host. Join me as we discover the inspiring stories of the people behind the most innovative and game-changing solutions in the market today. So tune in and enjoy. Thank you for joining us today. Today, I'm interviewing Kevin Saginian. He's a recent graduate and a young engineer who just joined Saratech about a year and a half ago. I really wanted to get this perspective of a younger engineer just to get an idea on what it's like for them during that pandemic and having to go to school and then getting into the real world, learning the differences between what you learned in school and what the real world engineering environment is like. Getting that perspective is very important to me because I've interviewed seasoned professionals, people who have been in industry for years. So I do want to get that reverse perspective, if you want to call it that. And, share some of that with our audience, and especially for some of our younger audience members out there who are maybe just getting into school, studying to be an engineer, or in the middle of learning. This may be of value to them. So enjoy this episode. Hi, Kevin. Welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you here.
Hey, good morning, Andy. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. So Kevin Saginian is a recent hire at Saratech. He's a mechanical engineer, just recently graduated college. So I wanted to have this conversation with Kevin just to kind of understand the perspective of a recent graduate, a new engineer, just to kind of see what things are like. So glad to have you on here, Kevin. So to get started, which college did you go to and when did you graduate?
So I started off in community college, but I eventually transferred to Cal State Northridge, and I graduated in the spring of 2021.
Oh, okay. So during your time at Cal State Northridge, or here in Southern California, we call it CSUN, right? Everybody call it CSUN. What kind of classes did you take, and what were some of your favorite classes? Were they engineering classes, or sometimes, they don't have to be engineering. Some people like other classes.
Yeah, by that point that I had transferred to CSUN, I was entering the upper division courses. So it was basically all engineering classes. There was maybe a few straggler GE courses here and there that I had to take care of, but it was all engineering courses. So a lot of the things that any engineering major, but all mechanical engineering majors will take. So machine design courses, heat transfer, thermodynamics, stress analysis classes. And of those, it's funny, actually, my favorite classes, even though on paper they're more difficult, but my favorite classes were the upper division engineering courses. I actually struggled a lot in my first 2 years, my lower division, just because I wasn't interested in a lot of the stuff that I was taking.
Oh, really? So yeah. You didn't start out being interested in engineering. So what pushed you toward that direction?
Oh, no. So actually, I was interested in engineering, but just a lot of the lower division courses starting out in college was not really, you need them for engineering because
I see. So they're like foundation classes.
Yes, exactly. But they're not exactly engineering classes. It was just the general eds and then math, chemistry, physics.
Right.
And so because it was hard to get myself really interested during taking those classes. I actually really struggled a lot more in my earlier classes, as opposed to when I transferred to CSUN and went into the upper division courses, where technically on paper the courses are getting more difficult. I actually had an easier time and did better because I was just so much more interested and eager to learn.
Of course.
And because everything at that point was engineering focused. So it really felt like everything you were learning was real life skills for the future.
Got it.
And to answer your question, my favorite classes out of those were probably heat transfer and probably our CAD. The class, the core, I forgot the name of it, but the course that we learned computer aided design. Yeah, just because those two classes were just very tangible to me. I just felt like I could really apply them.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I can see how taking the lower division classes just to get to what you really want to study, that can be a drag, right?
It was a drag for me, yeah.
Well, unfortunately for you, COVID hit right in the middle of CSUN, right?
Yes.
So how did you deal with that? How did that affect your learning and the way you approach school?
Yeah, so for lack of a better term, that just was a real bummer. I mean, because it didn't make school any harder, if anything, it made it way easier. Just because now you're taking classes from online, and yeah, like you said, it happened right in the middle of my upper division portion of my education. So I was at CSUN for about a year and a half, and then COVID hit, and the last year or so was online, and things just rapidly changed to online format. The school was not the education system as a whole was not prepared for that. So it was kind of a free ride for the remainder of that year. To be honest, the professors weren't really prepared.
Wow. Okay.
And that was actually really a bummer, because I actually had started to do well in school, and I was actually getting really, proud of my education, and was getting really into what I was learning. This, going online and kind of, the quality, losing that quality of education, at least at the start, was really upsetting. So that was the remainder of the year that COVID had hit. And then I had my final year, which was all online, where the professors were more prepared for it. So it was a little bit better quality of education, but it still lacked the same incentive to study as hard, just simply because you're doing your coursework and you're testing online.
Right.
So it was a lot more responsibility placed on yourself on how much you wanted to learn. Anyone, if they wanted to, could have their second computer monitor open next to them through every test. But if you wanted to make sure you were doing your diligence and learning the material, you had to make that extra effort. So I did that as well as I could. And the only thing that I really missed out on was a solid senior project experience, because that's best experienced in person.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So you didn't get that connection with your classmates and really work together as a team to build something, right?
Yeah, exactly. It pivoted over into just kind of a research project.
Right. So, but it looks like you got out of it okay, and now you're a full-fledged engineer at Saratech. So tell me about your role at Saratech. What do you do?
So at Saratech, I am one of our mechanical engineering associates, and over here, since being the nature of a engineering services company, that could mean a lot of different things. So what I do is kind of hard to define. So I support both the actual engineering design projects that we have. So if customers come to us with, design needs, that they need drawings done for something or modeling done for something, then I can be applied to that and used to support that. I also have supported the software side of things. So when customers come to us in need of engineering software support, so like our case support or our premium support program. So I've helped out with both of those. So both NX issues, SimCenter 3D issues, and NX administrator related tasks. If a customer has premium support and they need some NX administrative work done, like they need you to create a new part library or something, or reorganize their part materials library, things like that. I've done all of that as well. So, and still new, a brand new work is being shown to me. So
Yep.
it's definitely a lot of different hats you get to wear.
Yeah, and sometimes that's a good thing because you get to learn so many different aspects of being an engineer, right? It's not just okay, here go work on this particular project and do this thing A, B, C, right? So you get to do a lot of different things. So how is it your experience as an engineer now? Is it different than your expectation on what it would be like when you were in school? Like, did you imagine when you went to school and studying engineering, what was your vision of being an engineer look like? And is it matching up with what your expectation was?
Yeah. So it's funny. It's almost, when I was in school, I almost had a hard time imagining what it would be like, because you're learning all this stuff, but at the end of the day, you're like, how am I actually going to be able to do the job? Because
Right.
you see people getting hired out of college to, like, Northrop Grumman, for example, a big aerospace company. And you're
Yeah.
like, how does that work? Because we've learned all these courses, but I don't know a single thing about designing an airplane. Like, so I'm
Right.
like, what does that even look like? So yeah, I was imagining a very highly demanding technical environment where
Uh-huh.
you really had to remember everything you learned,
Right.
um, to be able to hit the ground running the moment you're hired and be effective the moment you're hired in whatever you're
Right.
doing, which really freaked me out, because I'm like, I mean, sometimes the next semester I can't even remember
Right.
some
Right.
of the
Of
stuff I learned.
course.
So expectation versus the reality, it was comforting to know that when you come in, no matter where you are, you do receive some degree of training
Right.
program. So that was different than what I expected. And so you are kind of trained for a period, and, they hold your hand for a little bit and kind of
Yeah.
let you build the skills to be effective in the job you're in. And another thing is, I expected to have to be able to recall a lot of the technical knowledge and, equations
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
engineering concepts we learned. But in the reality of working, all that stuff is available to you online if you forget any of it. And,
Right. Right.
you don't need to know all your engineering equations by memory.
Right.
And yeah, there's a lot of tools available to you in a working environment that they don't let you use in school.
I see.
And
Yeah.
so it's a little bit easier in that regard.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I went out of school, I didn't study to be an engineer, but coming out of school, you really have very different expectation on what being at a quote unquote real job would be like, right?
Yeah,
But good thing is you came into an environment where there's, like you mentioned, a lot of support, there's additional training. And I think there's also senior level people that you can lean on for advice and
right.
and kind of show you the ropes a little bit. So that helps, right? Do you remember, was there an instant or an experience that was really eye opening for you? Like, oh yeah, this is what it's gonna be like. Was there a moment like that you experienced, or?
It's tough to say, because again, with the nature of the kind of work we do, right out the
Yeah,
gate, you're doing
yeah,
a lot of different things. So I would say one of the first assignments that I was given here at Saratech, it was one of our really good stress analysis engineers, Connor McCauley.
yeah, yeah,
Um, he asked me to go through a stress report for Sierra Nevada Corporation.
yeah,
We're helping them with the Dreamchaser, and it wasn't super technical. It was just to go in and validate some of the calculations, and if some things didn't look right, to redline them and correct them. I guess finally touching something that was a part of something that big,
yeah,
like the
yeah,
Sierra Nevada Dreamchaser. That was
yeah.
my, like, oh man, this is
This is
whatever
real
I'm
now,
doing.
right?
Whatever I'm doing, yeah, whatever I'm doing in this field is usually going to be attached to something like very prominent, like something very
Yeah,
big for humanity.
yeah,
And that was like really kind of the validation I wanted for getting into this.
Yeah, and it's exciting, isn't it? I mean, if you think about the type of projects that engineers work on, they're really cool projects, right?
Yeah.
Working with aerospace company, building rockets, building planes, building um, electric vehicles. Right now, unmanned air vehicle is like all the rage. Companies are just going crazy right now. So it's really is a very exciting time for engineers. I think I'm not an engineer, but I'd be just geeked out being able to work on all of these projects.
Yeah, it's one of the best ways to kind of mentally reset. When you're getting too in the weeds of what you're doing, and maybe you're getting a little frustrated or stressed out.
Yeah.
And anytime that happens, just taking a step back and remembering what it is you're doing it for always puts you back into a positive mindset. It reminds you just how cool it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Now, knowing what you know now, even though you've been working like for about a year and a half or so, and what would you do differently in school, knowing what you know now?
Yeah. So in school, knowing what I know now, I probably would try to talk a lot more talk as much as I possibly could, with the professors and professor assistants and just pick their brains about their own real world experience. And I would probably utilize the labs a lot more, like just really focus on the hands-on stuff.
Yeah.
I would probably try to get a lot more out of those. Whereas in school, a lot of the time, you're just trying to get through the steps of any given lab. Make sure you get graded properly. But I would probably try my very best to absorb as much as I could from the labs. A lot of that seemed to be most applicable to what I do now.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, especially for engineering student in school now, right? Get that practical experience, get that real world experience as much as you can. Of course, you missed out because you couldn't do an internship because of the COVID pandemic. So you kind of miss out that experience of being able to apply for an internship at a place where you actually have practical experience working, huh?
Yeah, that was a big letdown. I actually had an internship lined up for the summer of 2020 with this company called ACO Engineered Systems. They're a big. They do a lot of things now, but big time HVAC integrators. They'll do the HVAC for huge structures, like the Rams Stadium is their most recent project.
Yeah.
So the biggest structures in Los Angeles and Northern California. So for me, that was going to be a very good place to get experience as a mechanical, and that was coming in the summer of 2020. And they called me probably about May 2020, saying it wasn't going to happen.
Right.
And yeah, that was really upsetting to me. And,
I'm sure you were extremely disappointed, looking forward to getting some practical experience, getting some skills under your belt and things like that. So
definitely. And it was paid too, man.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Nice. So you missed out on the paycheck too, huh?
Yeah.
Now, do you have any hobbies or anything that you're into?
Yeah, definitely. Pretty much my whole life, I've been a big tennis player and guitar player.
Oh, nice.
Those are my main two. And just recently, now that I've been working, and I've always wanted to do it, but now that I've been working and I can pay for it myself, I've been getting into jujitsu now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's good exercise. That's good self-defense too.
Good exercise, good self-defense, and surprisingly technical. It's a lot of problem solving physically.
You know what? That's a good way to look at it, because watching. I love watching UFC, right? And I always learn something new watching the analysts talk about, oh, this is where his hand position should be to counter that move and things like that. I mean, it's very, very technical to the people who are not into it. It just looked like two guys on a mat wrestling. But, it's very, very technical, isn't it?
No, it is, and it really gets revealed when you roll or spar with somebody that's a lot higher level than you. I mean, you just feel completely and utterly helpless. They just have all the knowledge of there's. I mean, you have to get to this position to be able to get to this position to be able to get to this position to be able to finally get that finishing move or the submission. So. Right. It's it's very technical, surprisingly. So that's one of the reasons that I really like it. And same with guitar and tennis. I've always enjoyed the very kind of like more cerebral hobbies.
Yeah, I used to play tennis in high school. That was a long time ago. I played on my high school team, and that was a lot of fun.
Same. It's a lot of fun, especially when you get to the point where you can just rally back and forth. It's very meditative. Right. Something about
Exactly.
Yeah.
I remember we used to go, even after practice, there's this park near my house called Furman Park. And I have a couple buddies on the tennis team, and we just go out to the park and literally play all night. So after we're done with school, after practice, we just go to the park and play till it's dark, and like, the light turns off at 10. I think we love it so much. It was doing that. So excellent.
That used to be like every summer night for me and my friends as well. That was the best.
Excellent. So now that you have some experience working, I know I asked you earlier about, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently? What would your advice be to, let's say, yourself as a starting engineering student or going back in time, or to new engineering student coming into, school learning about this? What would your advice be to yourself and to those students?
One thing I would say to myself is so one of the things that held me back in school is just kind of trying to figure out how to put this. I would tell myself, try to really like open your mind to what it is you're learning. Because
don't just go through the motion, right?
Yeah, I feel like when I would get into a class, or I'd be taking a class, I might initially be kind of stressed out on first glance, like, oh my gosh, this is so technical, and just so worried about like, how am I going to get a good grade?
Right.
But then I would get through it, and it'd be a very stressful, like difficult process. But then the next semester, I would look back at the textbook from that class, and I'd be like, man, this wasn't so bad. Like,
right.
It was just in the moment. I was so stressed out. I was shutting my mind off to really absorbing it. So,
right.
I would just say, try not to worry, and just really just try to open yourself up to the material and learn it. And just try to absorb it as much as you can. Another real big piece of advice I would say is, as early as you can, try to take advantage of the career boosting opportunities through school. So the career fairs, chatting up your professors about any internship opportunities through them that you can possibly get. And regardless of what you think your resume looks like, just always apply to yourself to all of those things, because this sounds ridiculous, but I would literally not apply to internships in college because I felt that I didn't have as much experience as the other people that were applying, or I wasn't as smart as the other people applying. But that's ridiculous, because there's no harm at all in just applying. And if you don't, you're 100% not going to get it.
Exactly.
So once I finally did, later on, I got that internship that I told you about that I lost. And I was just kicking myself. I was like, man, if I had just started going to those career fairs earlier and just started handing my resume out early, I may have been able to get one of those, one of my earlier summers.
Yeah.
So just, yeah, as the moment you get in, I would just start attending every career boosting opportunity your school offers, and try for internships and work experience, things like that, and just never be afraid to apply yourself, because if you don't, then you're guaranteed not to get it.
Absolutely. That's a really, really good advice, Kevin. Again, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I really enjoy speaking with you. And I think you dropped some pearl of knowledge for, younger people, students, engineering students, and engineers who are just getting into the field as well. I'm really thankful that you are able to get on and kind of share your experience with our audience so that, some people may be able to learn from it and learn from you. So I appreciate it, Kevin.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me. I'm glad I could help in any way.
Awesome. Thank you.